Hello and welcome to the Late Stage Comedy Podcast. We are joined today by the wonderful Jim Judges, who shall be chatting about his upcoming show at Leicester Comedy Festival. How are you doing, Jim?
Great. Thank you for having me. Looking forward to this quick catch up and chat about comedy.
Yes, and we will be talking about comedy. So I'm interested as to what got you into comedy in the first place. What made you step on the stage and try and make other people laugh?
Yeah, great question. I think it's the cliche but true a younger brother syndrome, show off since I was so high. And also, I did fall out of a bedroom window when I was 18 months. And I think that those two things combined to make my persona and need to seek the laughter of strangers.
I'll be careful drawing a connection between being chucked out a window. Sorry, falling out a window, I should say, not being chucked out a
Well,
window.
you're not far from the truth. But I'm a twin, and I'm pretty sure my mum looked at us both and thought, which one can I afford to keep? So I do have my suspicions. You were going to say.
I was going to say, before we took this into infanticide, I would be wary of drawing the conclusion between hitting your head, being chucked out the window, and going, I'm going to do stand up.
I think many of my peers and fellow comedians might agree that, of course, it's a joy and a love, but also a curse. And like a moth to the flame, we seek the next opportunity and next gig to show off in front of a room of strangers.
Right, let's go all the way back to your first gig. Do you remember the first time that you went onto stage and tried to perform a set to people?
Yeah, just about. I had a friend in London back in the 90s, maybe mid 90s, and I'd been thinking about doing it. My pals had been encouraging me to have a go because I was the daft one and the funny one and the silly one. Time out led me to a pub somewhere in London. I wish I could remember where. And before I knew it, I was on stage doing some very poor, very weak material. Goodness knows, I prefer not to think too much about it. Other than, what about this? It was my first gig and I got paid. The organizer came round at the end and said, oh, we've had a bit of a whip round and here's your share. And slid over a £1 coin across the pub table. And I thought, brilliant, I've made it. I'm a paid comedian. And it all started there.
Getting any amount of money for your first gig is a massive achievement, no matter how you came across it. Well, you say it started, I presume since then you've done hundreds, if not thousands upon gigs. And I'm sure some of them have gone better than the other ones.
Yeah.
So I wondered if you wouldn't mind telling us about maybe your best gigging experience and then maybe your worst.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think if I possibly start with my worst, in that roll forward a year and a half, and somehow I would argue that it's sink or swim, it's survival of the fittest. And you only keep going back if you're daft, have a problem, been dropped on the head, or you get some encouragement from the audience in the form of laughter. And a year and a half later, let's say, or so, in 1996, I found myself in the final of the Daily Telegraph open mic competition. Who should win it? Frankie Boyle. Who else should be there talking about biscuits? A young Noel Fielding. And who else should be there? Young Jimmy Judges, doing some quite questionable, dodgy material. But of 1,000 people, I was selected to be in the final 10. And I have to say that probably in terms of cringe and not really being prepared and not really knowing how the world of comedy worked, that wasn't my best gig because I came out, told a joke. You might remember back in the 90s, it was all about cable TV and what have you. And you might recognize me from cable TV, Yap. I've been digging up pavements in and around urban areas, something along those lines. And the joke went about as well as it will to you and anyone else listening to this. And it was at that point, in the next 10 seconds, when I've never suffered from, what do you call it, when you're just like now, when you go blank. And yeah, what is that? Come on, help me out there. What's that name? Not stage fright, not so much stage fright maybe, but basically my mind went blank and I couldn't really think of anything. So it was, you better believe it, folks. But I'd also say that not only was I not very well prepared for that gig, I didn't realize that it's probably a good idea to do some previews and do some rehearsals and actually write some material. But also, I was super confident. That was the other thing. It was probably the biggest difference between confidence and outcome that I've ever experienced. So that wasn't my best gig. And then my best. That is a tricky one. Let me have a think. Oh, let me just say this then. So I'm just going to show off, but only in an understandable way. You'll see that, of course, at comedy nights and alcohol are no stranger. It just so happens, as we know, that, for example, the length of the acts being 20 minutes and then the break being enough time to refuel your glasses. Not everybody who goes to comedy drinks. You don't have to be an alcoholic to enjoy comedy, but it sometimes helps. And I did a gig in the Midlands, Southall, in fact, for Funhouse
Mm.
Comedy. Great gig at the Saracen's Head, I believe, and went down well. Ian Crawford, they bought into it. And it's great as a character act. If the audience buy into it from the start, you're away, yeah? And you can just enjoy yourself. But a woman came to see me at the end, and the reason I mention alcohol, I can only assume that she must have had some, because she came up to me as I was speaking to Mike, the organizer, and she said, I've never seen you here before. And I said, that's true, I've not been here before. And she said, you're, as far as I'm concerned, you're better than Steve Coogan. And I thought, brilliant, yeah, that's it. So let's get it on the poster. So I hang on to that moment and sometimes reassure myself and remind myself that as far as at least one person who
Yeah.
had probably drunk 3 bottles of wine was concerned, I'm better than Steve Coogan. Imagine that.
Better than Steve Coogan, one person at the Saracen's Head in the Midlands.
Yeah. I haven't been brave enough to put it on my poster yet, but one.
I've seen many comedians put nice reviews from audience members on their posters, and that is a very nice review.
What can I say? There you go. I'm gigging at the Cradley, the Hollybush in Cradley Heathrow to 20 people on a Tuesday night and looking to hopefully get 10 quid towards petrol. Where's Steve Coogan? That's what I want to know.
You mentioned that you are a character actor, and I wonder, have you had any inspiration for creating a character actor? Do you have any comedy heroes that have helped you on your journey or pushed you into comedy in the first place?
Yeah, it's interesting. I do think about it a little, and I sometimes say, but I think there's some truth in it, that I'm not brave enough to be myself on stage, or that I worry that I haven't got anything exciting or interesting or any real strong opinions to talk about. So I found myself, mainly doing character comedy. And in terms of answering your question, then I would say I've always been a fan of Harry Hill. By the way, strictly speaking, might not be classed as a character, but he's really on the border between exaggerated persona and character comedian. But then, of course, the likes of Al Murray and the Pub Landlord, and definitely Steve Coogan and our friend Alan Partridge. And then some of the sort of zanier and dafter stuff that we used to enjoy back in the day. And certainly our friends Mortimer, Vic Reeves and Mortimer, and the dafter, zanier end of comedy. I'm not too interested in political, real-world stuff that reminds us about what a horrible time or species we might be on occasions. I'd rather escape all of that and just have a laugh at daft, silly stuff. So anyone who ticks that box is probably up my street.
Oh, fantastic. That's great to hear. So we're going to move on to a bit of a challenge. And in this challenge, you picked a specialist topic and you're going to answer as many questions as possible within 60 seconds. But I believe that you're bringing in a special guest in order to do this.
Yes, he's waiting out there. Nervously, I should admit, but nonetheless, I think he might be ready. So if you give me a second, I'll go see if I can call him in. Here he comes. Ian, they want to have a word with you. All right, hold on a sec. Here we go. Which button do I press?
Do you want to change your name at the bottom as well? It says Jim Judges.
Yeah, hang on a sec. Has he left that there? Hold on a sec. He's left that. Let me see. Hold on. I'll need to know which button to press. Can you remember?
Well, I'm trying to look myself. Oh, I might be. Oh, I can do it for you.
Can you? Which button? Where is it?
Done.
Aha. Fantastic. Hold on a sec. Okay, let's see. I've not got my tie on today. I'm relaxing around the home. How's it going?
Oh, hello. Nice to see you, Ian. How have you been?
How do? Very good. Good of you to ask. Staying safe, staying healthy. What more can we ask?
Oh, yeah. You've tagged in for you've tagged in to help answer these questions, have you? And to talk about
Fantastic.
the show.
I'm always happy to help, and if I can contribute to making the world a safer place while I'm doing it, even better.
Well, now you bring that up, I've asked you to pick a specialist topic. And what is your specialist topic for today?
Indeed. Health and safety and making the world a safer place, I would have to say, as an international health and safety expert.
The wording you gave me is the safety of the planet. So what I've done is I've asked ChatGPT to write us 10 questions on the
Oh,
safety of the planet. And it is now your task to answer as many of these as possible within 60 seconds. You can skip any that you want. And if you don't know the answer, I recommend you skip quickly. And also, you can give me the answer before I finish the question, if you so wish.
indeed.
Are you ready for your
Well,
question?
is the answer to question one turkey?
It is not.
Okay, just wanted to see if I could get
yeah.
ahead, but I failed. But here we go.
Your 60 seconds begins now. What is a primary greenhouse gas responsible for global warming?
Carbon dioxide.
Correct. How does deforestation contribute to environmental concerns?
Less trees, people get sad.
Correct. What is the ozone layer and why is it important for Earth's safety?
It's very important for protecting us from the dangers of ultraviolet radiation, part of the electromagnetic spectrum.
Correct. How does plastic pollution impact the health of marine ecosystems?
Plastic's bad. As plastic is drastic, keep it real with steel.
Incorrect. It harms marine life. What is the significance of the Paris Agreement in addressing climate change?
Oh, yeah. I think that is they've agreed to take down the Eiffel Tower and they're going to use that steel and recycle it. That will help the planet. The Paris Agreement.
I'm afraid it says here to limit global warming below 2 degrees, but your option is also good. How does renewable energy sources contribute to the safety of the planet?
Oh, it's so important. The more renewable energies we're using, the less pollution we're making, and the more content and pleased with ourselves we can be.
I'll give you that as a correct, and that is your time. You have answered 4 correctly and given us some great new policies in which to look at.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
That puts you towards the bottom of our leaderboard, but thank you so much for contributing anyway.
You say, hang on a sec, young fella, my lad, because you're saying to the bottom of the leaderboard, that doesn't sound so good. But I think you should have a separate column that gives us a score in terms of the contribution to improving health and safety. And surely I'll be at the top of that leaderboard. So it's all relative.
Yes, you are indeed at the top of that leaderboard, although you are the only one on that leaderboard.
Oh dear.
Before we head off, I believe that you're bringing a show to Leicester Comedy Festival in February.
That's not quite right, actually. What has happened is there's a comedy festival going on in Leicester in February. You may have heard of it. And the organisers have asked me to pop along and try and improve the health and safety, not by delivering a show, but by presenting my health and safety workshop called Accidental Pop. Now that's what I call safety. And what I'm doing is I'm taking the iconic pop tunes, the classics, those songs that you can't help singing while you're waiting for a bus at the bus stop, and I'm using those lyrics to inspire us towards being much safer, healthier, and happier.
If you are interested in coming along to this, what was the best word to call it? Seminar or workshop?
Yeah, deadly serious health and safety workshop.
Deadly serious.
Yeah.
Do you know what date and time it is on at?
It's a good question. It's the middle Saturday and Sunday, and the Saturday I'm on at the UCB depot around about the 3 o'clock mark, maybe 2:30. Check local press for details. And on Sunday, I'm on at the Kayal upstairs around about the 3 o'clock mark. Check local press for details, or just ask somebody walking past, or follow the crowds, or listen out for the laughter if it's already started.
You can go to lakestagecomedy.co.uk to find out about all of our shows, or go to the Leicester Comedy Festival website for the full listings. Before we go, is there anything you would like to tell our audience?
I suppose the thing is that many of you will remember that I started off life as a cutlery safety expert. And I just want to remind people to think once, think twice, think fork, spoon, and knife. But don't forget the teaspoon, because size to injury ratio is one of the deadliest cutlery items in the home. Yeah, thank you for giving me this opportunity. Hope to see some of you in Leicester. If you can't make it, I'll see you somewhere else.
Thank you very much for your time, Ian. It's been lovely to see you. That is all from Ian, myself, and Jim. Please come along and see some great stuff at Leicester. And actually, is there any way that people can follow you, Ian?
Yes, indeed. Yeah, you're welcome to follow me down to the fish and chip shop most evenings. But failing that, look out for me on the Twitters. Look for Spoon Sense, all one word, and also on TikTok. Search Ian Crawford _safety and use the old Google or ChatGPT or some other means. You'll find me.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for watching or listening, and we'll hope to see you at Leicester or one of our gigs very soon. Goodbye. Thank you for listening to the Late Stage Comedy Podcast. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe across all of our platforms. And do head to latestagecomedy.co.uk to find out more information about our upcoming shows. And whilst you're at it, why not take a listen to another one of our great podcast episodes? Thank you very much for listening. I have been your host, John Morris, and I hope you have a lovely day, and we'll see you very soon. Goodbye.